Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you've just joined us. My name is Nell, and in today's video we are diving headfirst into a story of love, loss and mystery. The story of La Llorona. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, please let me know in the comments. So, as always, grab a drink, dim the lights, and let's get into it. The story of La Llorona, or the Weeping Woman, is commonly well known in Mexico and South America, and in fact is quite often used by parents in order to keep their children in line. Be home before dark or La Llorona will get you. Go to sleep or La Llorona will get you. Stop bullying your siblings or La Llorona will get you. You get the idea. There are many different variations of the story depending on who you ask. However, the most popular one seems to be that of a young woman named Maria. She came from a very poor family, a very poor background. However, she was incredibly beautiful, and she would catch the eye of an incredibly wealthy man, and they would go on to marry and have 2 children together. And for a long time everything seemed wonderful. He would shower Maria with gifts, he was a loving and attentive father, and all in all they had an incredibly happy home life. Over time, however, things would slowly start to go south in their marriage. He would start staying out later and later. He would be less attentive and loving towards Maria, though at the same time he still showed love and devotion to their 2 children. It slowly became more and more clear to Maria over time that he was falling out of love with her. He would stay away for longer and longer periods of time, sometimes for months on end. He would drink, and there were rumours around the village that he had taken another wife. Real charming gentleman. On a very rare occasion that he would come home, he would, as always, show love and dote on the children, and yet he would more or less totally ignore Maria until in the end he stopped coming home altogether. Like I said, a real stand-up gent. 2 years would go past, and one day Maria and her children were walking along the side of the road when a familiar carriage just up ahead of them stopped. And who would be inside but her husband, and a young, beautiful woman sat beside him. Her husband would spend a little time talking to their children, as always, and yet, just as before, would totally ignore Maria. After a few minutes, the carriage drove on, leaving them behind. Now, Maria would be absolutely full of emotion at this. She would be feeling rage, heartbreak, jealousy at the fact that she was being completely ignored once again by the man she absolutely loved and adored, whilst at the same time being faced with the fact that he had indeed found somebody else. This all would become far too much for Maria to take. She took her 2 children, the love of her husband's life, and she would drown them in the river. When she realised what she'd done, she was absolutely overcome with guilt and horror at her actions. Now, the stories again differ on who you ask. Some stories will say that she threw herself in after the children straight away. Another story suggests that she would spend days walking along the river calling for her children, my children, looking for them. She would not eat, she would not rest, and in the end she would die on the banks of the river, alone, calling for her children. Her story doesn't end there, however. It said that when she reached the gates of heaven, she was denied entry for what she did to her children, forced to wander the earth in search of them, and would not be granted access to heaven until she found them. Now, another version of the story that I've heard recently is that Maria had been married once before. Now, again, she came from a poor background, and she and her rich husband had 2 children. Now, he would go on to pass away, and in the evenings she would get dressed up in her finest white dress and go out to the local taverns and mix and mingle with the young men there. I mean, why not, right? Back in those days, it was almost expected for people to remarry once their spouse had passed away, especially women, if they wanted to be, you know, well looked after and provided for. One evening, she would meet a young man and they would hit it off pretty much straight away. They spent the evening dancing together and laughing, and there was attraction there on both sides. It didn't take Maria very long to fall head over heels in love with this young man. However, there was a problem. He had absolutely no interest in raising Maria's 2 children from her previous marriage. Unfortunate, but fair enough. You know, not everyone wants that responsibility of raising children, especially not another person's child. However, Maria did not take this very well. In fact, she concocted quite the plan. She would go home, take her 2 young children, and we all know what happens here. After the deed is done, she returns to the young man to tell him that, you know, we don't have to have that problem anymore, you know, we're free to be together. Obviously, he's absolutely horrified at this. I mean, you know, as any sane person would be. Like, honestly, I'm not sure what she was expecting his reaction to be. Oh, yes, wonderful, darling. You've gotten rid of the 2 children standing in our way. Let's run away together. No. When she eventually came to her senses and realised what she'd done, she was quite horrified herself. In a moment of pure grief, she went down to the river and threw herself in. Regardless of the version of the story, to this day there are people who claim to have either seen or heard the crying of La Llorona. Some say she goes after young children, believing them to be her own children. When she realises that they aren't, however, she then goes on to drown them and force them to wander the earth as she does, lost and alone. I'll just say that she goes after cheating husbands and spouses, and that should you hear her, then you are cursed with death and bad luck. Either way, if you hear crying at night and hear a woman crying out, my children, then the best thing to do would be to run in the opposite direction, probably very, very fast. And if you're male, don't cheat on your partner. Seriously, consider this a warning, okay? That brings us to the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then be sure to leave a thumbs up and a comment down below. And if you haven't already, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss an upload. Until next time, as always, stay safe and sweet dreams.